Alrighty, so I think we'll get started. My name is Olivia Knaus. I am the RAAMP project assistant at CAA, and I'm really excited to welcome Jessica Cloer from Brandeis's Rose Art Museum, Diane Hart from Williams College of Art, and Ariana Webber from MIT's List Center for Visual Arts. And today they'll be discussing the different models of student art loan programs at their institutions. And before we get started, there might be some new people to our coffee gathering. So I wanted to, I just wanted to welcome everyone and just share some information on the format. Generally, our presenters present first, and we're going to hold questions until the end. But if you'd like to type in the chat box, it's the icon on the lower left-hand side. You can type in questions so you don't forget them, like I know I will, throughout the presentation. And like I said, we are recording this, so people can access this later if they weren't able to make it. So that will be posted on the RAAMP site. And any resources from this coffee gathering that might be helpful, I can also post and work with our presenters. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to Jessica. She's just going to pull up her presentation right now.
I know when you're all set.
I think you're all good to go.
All right, so good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us. Art lending programs for students are beloved by their museums and campus more broadly. From Wiseman Art Museum's art rental program that started in 1934 to the 2017 reintroduction of the Smart Museum's Art to Live With program, these all have a common mission to foster an appreciation of art through living with it. Today we will be focusing on the first four programs. Lending art to students may challenge professional museum standards, but its benefits far outweigh the risks. Art lending programs serve as a unique opportunity for students to truly live with art and experience it every day. Through daily encounters, students go beyond a casual glance and are more likely to closely look at the work and connect with it. This non-traditional experience with art can also draw new audiences and expose students to art they have never considered before. Art lending programs for students can foster a lifelong interest in the arts and encourage alumni to continue to support the educational mission of their institution due to their memorable experience with original works of art. Though many art lending programs have existed since the early part of the 20th century, the rise of the sharing economy, as well as the increase of participatory programs and creating experiences with art, make this an ideal time for these programs. Today, you'll be hearing from four programs in Massachusetts. Each speaker will present their program for approximately 20 minutes, and we'll reserve the end for questions, as we stated before. So the first speaker is Diane Hart, Senior Museum Registrar for Collections and Exhibitions at Williams College Museum of Art. Diane has over 30 years of experience in registration. She began her career at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts and the Yale University Art Gallery before becoming the Senior Museum Registrar for Collections and Exhibitions at the Williams College Museum of Art in 1992. Early in her tenure at Williams, she focused on managing an extensive year-round exhibition program and outgoing loans. She is a member of the leadership team at WCMA, or is it WICMA?
Yep.
Working to deeply integrate the museum collections, programs, and exhibitions into student and faculty life at Williams. She has her BA in Fine Arts from Virginia Tech and an MA in Art History from Virginia Commonwealth University. She has held board positions with the New England Registrars Association and the Registrars Committee of the AAM, as well as mentored new professionals in the registration field. The second speaker is Ariana Webber. She is a registrar for exhibitions at MIT List Visual Arts Center, and she manages the Student Lending Art Program. Early in her time at the List, she also managed the permanent collection at the Campus Loan Art Program. Prior to joining the List, Ariana worked at the Yale University Art Gallery, where she assisted with permanent collection, incoming long-term loans, and temporary exhibitions. It was while working at Yale that Ariana became familiar with the challenges of collecting and exhibiting contemporary art. Ariana has a background in archaeology with a BA from Boston University and an MA in Bible and Archaeology from the University of Sheffield. She received an MA in Museum Studies from New York University. Lastly, you'll hear from me, Jessica Cloer. I'm the Associate Registrar for the Rose Art Museum at Brandeis University. For over 4 years, I was a curricular registrar at the Harvard Art Museums, where I managed the student print rental program. In the fall of 2015, I relaunched the program after a 7-year hiatus, and it was during this planning process that I found it challenging to find information about how to manage a successful art lending program. And I also discovered that other universities were also actively seeking this information. This motivated me to write a guide to art lending programs for students in institutions of higher learning for my Museum Studies master's degree capstone project in 2016. And I formed a Neiman panel this past fall with these lovely ladies, and also presented this coffee gathering. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Diane. All right.
Hi, everyone. Can you see my presentation, my first slide?
Not yet.
Okay.
I feel like I'm having trouble with my video for some reason. It's like, no.
Oh,
Oh, there you are again.
Victory.
how's that? Is that
Can
working?
you do the share screen button?
Just a minute. Sorry.
No worries. This is new technology for many people, including myself.
I can't find it.
It's right next to the hang up button, the red,
Oh,
right next to the red button.
yeah. Cheers. Okay. How's that? Is that no?
Oh, yep, loading.
Okay.
Yep.
Am I there?
Yep.
You're here.
Great.
Okay. All right. So our student lending program is called WALLS, and that stands for Williams Art Loan for Living Spaces. And I'm Diane Hart, and I am the Senior Museum Registrar at Williams. And yes, we really are lending artwork to the students. You can imagine what myself and our associate registrar thought when the subject first came up. Are you really going to lend the collection to the students in their dorm rooms? As registrars, our focus is on keeping control, minimizing risk, and protecting art. Everything about this program seemed like the complete opposite. Like it or not, we were asked to develop this program in 2014. My talk will be presented in 4 sections: why WALLS, setting up the program in action, and how we manage the data. So why WALLS? We had a new director, a new strategic plan, and we wanted more student involvement. So our new director came on in 2013. Our museum embarked on a strategic plan, and that process culminated in a 5-year plan that was published in 2014. And our plan was called Spark, Think, and Make, and transforming the museum. The new vision was centered around getting students into the museum and creating personal experiences with art. And the Walls program would be the key component to this plan. So our goals were for student involvement. And what we wanted to do was broaden access to original works of art for students beyond art and art history majors. We wanted to offer students a deep, memorable, and personal experience with the works of art. And we want to broaden and deepen the sense of ownership and investment in the museum and its collection across the undergraduate community at Williams to convey the philosophy that art is part of everyday life. Sorry. So we got to the point where we were ready to set up our program, and this centered around the formation of the collection for Walls, the risks and how we would deal with those, and the tools that we used for the program. So this slide just shows examples of some of the works in our Walls collection, and we formed a new collection separate from the permanent collection, comprised mostly of purchases and some gifts. We made a new collection in TMS, our data management tool database, and we called that Walls, and we assigned a unique prefix accession tracking number, SL, for student loan. Our collection objectives were diversity of gender, ethnicity, and nationality, and contemporary art. We wanted student involvement, so we had student curators for the purchase of the collection works and students on the Walls acquisition committee. We had a special criteria for all the works to join the program. We had size parameters, nothing larger than 42 inches by 42 inches. It's mostly works on paper, prints, and photographs, mostly. We had a limit on the insurance, nothing over $2,500 value, and most of the purchases were right around there. The college insures the collection. We have a separate policy. And to date, we have 130 works in our Walls collection. Oh, sorry. So this slide just is an example of the tools and resources that we used. We added a barcode module to our database, and we use this as a pilot project for barcoding of our entire collection, and we are using the barcoding now for a change of locations with our permanent collection as well as in Walls. And we added every dormitory location into our database so that we could track where each piece is each semester. We bought handheld scanners for long-range lasers to use for the scanning. We bought printers, framing, matting, and hanging supplies, packing supplies. We have a very experienced staff, 2 registrars, 3 art handlers, and our entire engagement staff manages the events and programs related to Walls. Alums and friends gave us money for gifts, gave us objects as gifts to the collection, and one donor provided funds to get the project off the ground in year 1 and 2. And our college provides funds to continue the program moving forward. And all staff is involved on pickup day. So our program in action, I'm going to show you slides and talk about pickup day, the checkout, our loan agreement form, and then when the students take the works out the door. So here's an example of the fall pickup. In the fall, we always do an installation, and in the winter, we just place the works around in an open gallery, and the students come in and select that way. So in the fall and winter, the Walls collection is lent each semester, and we started with around 100 works, and it's grown, as I said, to about 130. And we install the collection in the summer, allowing our summer visitors to learn about the program and see the works that are part of it. The gallery installation provides a space to schedule student programs early in the semester before pickup day, and our engagement team and student volunteers hold events in those spaces, and it drums up interest and gets everybody excited about the program. And then in the winter semester, we typically use an empty gallery, and we place the works around the evening before the pickup day. So here's the pickup day, and as you can see on the left, it's the middle of winter in January when we hand them out, and then the next slide shows actually one of our curators helping a student get one of the larger ones that is bigger than it was supposed to be, than our stated size, to get that out the door. This is the checkout where it's all hands on deck for our staff. The students select the work that they'd like. They take it off the wall and they carry it to the checkout station. We process the little loan form. We pack the artwork. We take a picture of the students and their loan for social media and for our records. And the smaller works are given out with command strips to hang them in the dorm rooms, and they install them themselves. And the larger works, our college facilities department the students make an appointment with facilities, and they are the ones that will install that for them. So I just wanted to show you the loan agreement form, and I believe this loan agreement form is going to be part of the documents that you can download, so you can see that. It's a very simple form. Just a brief statement at the beginning. It says WICMA is happy to lend to students and is committed to preserving it for future generations of students. WICMA is transferring stewardship of the artwork to the student for a semester, and we ask borrowers to adhere to a simple set of guidelines. It's a simple form with the object number, object information, and the accession number. We record the pick order. The students line up, and it's first come, first served, and each one gets a bib with the number that they had in line. So we record that. The conditions for borrowing are stated: the borrower's name, contact information, their dormitory, and the date we want them to return it. The key responsibilities of the student borrowers are to ensure safe transport from and back to WICMA, to keep the artwork out of direct sunlight, maintain possession of the artwork themselves, and provide a safe and secure environment for the artwork. And then we have the return date and time designated on that document. So they walk out the door with their new artwork that they get to keep for a semester. And then I'm just going to speak a little bit about how we manage the data that we record, and that's with dorm locations, student information, and journal entries and student quotes. The students are our most important data set. Each student is entered into TMS, our database, as a constituent and is linked to the borrowed artwork. They receive the role of borrower, and the loan period is recorded in the date range on TMS. We enter their academic majors in text entries on the constituent screen, along with the division that their major falls under. That would be like sciences, humanities, the arts. And when the students borrow a work, they are given a small paper journal that travels with the work each time it is borrowed. And before returning the work, the students are encouraged to record any thoughts or feelings they had while the artwork was with them, sometimes writing a message to the next borrower. The information is entered on the object screen in the text entries field, along with the order in which the artwork is selected, and that's the pick order. So if you have any questions at the end, I'm happy to try to answer. And there's a little citation for further reading. Myself and our previous director of engagement at the museum, we wrote an article in the Advancing Engagement and Handbook for Academic Museums, and we have the citation of that. But thank you very much for attending the webinar, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Diane. I think we have Ariana next.
Yeah. So if you want to go up to stop presenting at the top. Okay. Just want to let me know when you can see it.
Yep, it's loaded for me.
Yep. Okay, wonderful. Hi, my name is Ariana Webber, and I am the Registrar for Exhibitions here at the MIT List Visual Arts Center. And I help to manage our Student Lending Art Program, or SLAP for short. And I will admit that when I first started working here and I learned that we had this program where we lent works from our collection out to students, I was terrified by the idea. But after being involved in the program and speaking with students, I've realized just how special and important it is. So our Student Lending Art Collection contains more than 600 framed original works of art, primarily prints and photographs, by leading contemporary artists. They are hung in a salon-style exhibition for 2 weeks every September, opening around the first day of classes. During those 2 weeks, students will come and they'll view the show, and then they'll pick their top 5 favorite artworks. They enter their choices on a lottery system, and after the exhibition, we run the lottery and then have a week of art distribution. Students will come in and they'll literally take the artworks off the walls. They sign loan agreements with us and then take the artworks back to their dorms, apartments, and offices for the year. All the works are then returned during a 1.5-week return period in May before students graduate. Students have been borrowing artwork at MIT since 1969, and since 1977, the collection has been exhibited annually every September. The collection began with the Catherine N. Stratton Collection of Graphic Arts, the List Student Lending Collection, and the Ronald A. Kurtz Student Loan Collection. Some of the earliest SLAP works we accessioned were a silkscreen by Joseph Albers, a lithograph by Alexander Calder, a lithograph by Miro, and a zinc etching by Jesse Rychek. Though our collection has grown a lot since the initial gift in 1966, these remain some of our most popular works. We had a student this year who said he tried for the Jesse Rychek every year since he started at MIT, and he finally won it this year, his last year at MIT. When we signed loan agreements with him, he couldn't stop saying how excited he was. Our student lending collection now has over 600 works of art. Works by the photographer Bernice Abbott and Harold Eugene Edgerton are particularly well represented in our collection. Bernice Abbott, in addition to her photographs of 1930s New York, did some of the original photographs for MIT physics textbooks. The one here is called Transformation of Energy. And Jack Edgerton, as he was known, pioneered strobe technology in photography. And this work is entitled Making Applesauce at MIT, and it's a particular student favorite. We also have a Solowit wall drawing in the collection. The student receives the instructions to complete the wall drawing and then installs it in their apartment. They photograph it and send the photographs to us. And then at the end of the loan, they have to document themselves painting over the wall. Students are always super excited about getting to realize this piece. The one here was completed by Joseph DeWalk in 2017. And then we also have a Picasso in our collection. It's an untitled lithograph that we acquired in 2013. The student lending collection is our most active collection, though we are about at capacity for our exhibition wall space at this point. Typically, we acquire around 20 new works every year through both gifts and purchases. We try to focus on artists who have exhibited with us, particularly female artists and artists of color. We also try to acquire local Boston-based artists. Acquiring work by artists we've exhibited directly links SLAP back to our other programming and hopefully encourages students to come back to the gallery at other times of the year to see our events and to see our exhibitions. We have a few long-standing collections projects that we're working on for the SLAP collection. Number one is probably photography. We have ID shots for everything, but we're working on getting high-res images of the entire collection. Whenever we accession a work now, we always get updated photography for it, but many of the older works, we just don't have decent images. So when the works are on site during the summer, we set up a photography station and try to shoot as many of them as we can. We're about a third finished at this point. We're also trying to get updated rights and reproductions approvals. We had an intern here over the summer who worked on updating our rights and reproductions records, as well as reaching out to various copyright holders. We're also continually working on getting up-to-date valuations for the artworks. All of our slab works are glazed with OP3 UV protectant plexi, and they're framed with a sturdy frame, usually just black Roma. We try to overmat as much as possible, though we do have several works that are hinged. And incidentally, slipped hinges are probably the most common conservation issue that we encounter. All the works are hung by a wire, and we provide hanging hardware to each student. We currently provide 2 picture hooks, but there are a few dorms on campus that have concrete walls or don't allow nails in the wall. And because of that, we're currently brainstorming some alternative hanging methods. My colleague, Emily Gardner, does 2 fair booths on campus as part of a campus-wide event, one for undergrads and one for graduate students, where she spreads the word about SLAP. She also does presentations during orientation week to various departments. All the housemasters on campus receive a packet 2 weeks before students move in to distribute to students living in the dorms. The packet contains the postcard with information about the SLAP program, dates it's on view, and a listing of events. It also contains a bookmark that has our exhibition calendar on the back. Last year, we distributed around 8,400 postcards. The list has a very active social media presence, mainly focusing on Facebook and Instagram, run by my colleague Betsy Willett. To spread the word about SLAP, we teamed up with other social media channels at MIT and other area museums. We would send them specific content about events or links to our website for them to share. And then we would see increased interest in an event or greater traffic to our website on days when they shared as well. We also tried using paid advertising this year. We spent around $600 in targeted Facebook ads. They would be able to specifically target not only students who say that they attend MIT, but students who have attended specific events at MIT or are part of affiliated groups at MIT. We also developed a website dedicated just to our student lending art program. It has details about the program in general, breakdowns of who participates, including years, majors, how often they participate, and if they live on or off campus. It features student stories and additional opportunities for students to share their thoughts on the program. One of the long-term goals of the website is to have high-res images of the entire collection documented. When we start installing the show, we start with the walls. Whatever walls are going to be needed for the fall exhibition are the walls that are present during SLAP. So every year, SLAP ends up looking completely different. Last year, we had no walls at all in our 2 temporary gallery spaces. This year, we had a series of 5 more intimate rooms. We store all the works off-site in the summer. At the end of August, they all come back to the list. It usually takes about 2 trucks filled to the brim with sea bins to get it all back. And then we sort and label. It usually takes a few days to get things laid around the room before we even start hanging. We print 2 sets of labels for all the works. One set we tape to the front of each work, and then the second set become the wall labels. We only remove the taped on label at the last possible moment, so we can do multiple double checks that all of our wall labels are accurately placed. There are some artists, such as Bernice Abbott or Doc Edgerton, that always stay together. And then there's always a new acquisitions highlight wall. But otherwise, the order is really prepared or curated, and it changes every year. Size dictates some of it, but other than that, it's really just what they think is going to work best. Though somehow, the works that our gallery manager doesn't particularly care for always get hung near his office, right at eye level. And then the video I have here is a time lapse from our installation this year. And here is a photo from part of our exhibition this year. Our current exhibition needed this wall on the right, so it ended up creating this great intimate hallway in the middle of the show, which worked really well. During the exhibition, we host events for specific departments, namely the Sloan School of Management and Arts at MIT, which includes the Music and Theater Arts and Art, Culture, and Technology program, or ACT. We also did some freshman-only events this year. Together with Arts at MIT, we host the Arts on the Radar event, which gets around 550 students into our galleries. There are open studios with ACT students, live music, and a barbecue. There are other art installations that are added in our atrium lobbies, and the event culminates in a dance party in the ACT Cube, which is a black box theater and performing space in our lower atrium. The past few years, we've had a local artist do an installation in our atrium for the run of SLAP. We feel that it's important to have an artist here to engage with students, mainly so that they can be exposed to a living artist and understand that contemporary art can come in many forms, not just painting or drawing. Since we are a contemporary art center, we want to expose students to local artists and connect it back to what we offer throughout the year. So SLAP doesn't just become a shopping experience for students. We want them to feel comfortable and excited to come back. During the exhibition, we set up 3 computers at our front desk, programmed with our lottery software. After viewing the exhibition, students will then enter their top 5 choices. MIT AT helped us back in 2014 to design our lottery website. Before the lottery site, everything was done by hand, and I imagine it took a very long time. Now we import the artworks in the exhibition from our Embark database, and the lottery site connects to the MIT student database. Students must be fully registered for classes before they can sign up. This sometimes causes difficulties since the lottery happens right as registration is being processed, but it allows us to guarantee that whoever is signing up for the lottery is a full-time MIT student. It will also pre-populate a lot of their information. This year we had 926 students sign up for the lottery. Before students finalize their choices, we ask them to confirm that they will personally be the ones that come and pick up the artwork should they win. We don't allow spouses or friends to pick up for them. We also ask that they confirm that the work can be carried safely and is not too large for them to carry, and that they have a safe space at home to hang the work when they get there. We're hoping to add images to our lottery site next year, because right now it's just the basic tombstone information, and this can sometimes lead to confusion because we have a lot of works that are untitled. And no matter how many times we stress that the accession number is the most important part and the only way to guarantee that they're choosing the right work, there are always students who end up winning works that they never intended to choose. Once we run the lottery, which I do on the Monday after the exhibition closes, it divides students into recipients, alternates, and unawarded. It automatically sends an email to every student. This year, there were 505 recipients, 116 alternates, and 305 unawarded. The recipients were awarded one of their top 5 choices, whichever one was still available. The lottery sent them a PDF of their loan agreement, and then they print 2 copies of the agreement and bring it with them when they come to pick up their piece. As soon as we run the lottery, it generates a list of the works that were designated as available for alternates. We print a bunch of pink tags, and the preparators go around the galleries and label the alternate works. If a student was chosen as an alternate, it means that none of their top 5 choices were still available when they were chosen by the lottery. But then they can choose from any of the works marked with a pink tag. These are not necessarily works that no one chose. Some of these are works that were a student's 3rd choice, but that student got their 1st choice. So there still are some really good works that are available for alternates. Then there are a group of students who were not awarded anything. They can still come back on the last day of distribution for what we call last call, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. We have 3 days of distribution. Recipients and alternates can come from 12 to 8 to pick up their work, and our visitor services staff help to facilitate the distribution of art. We have 4 teams of 2 working to check out students. If they're a recipient, they'll fill out their loan paperwork with our staff, go take their artwork off the wall, and then take it to a condition reporting station, where we do a condition report and confirm the accession number. They will then take the work to be wrapped and head to the final checkout table. Myself or another registrar are at the final checkout table, and we check their loan paperwork again. They give us 1 copy of the loan agreement, and they keep the other. We check the accession number again and initial at the top of the contract that we keep. This indicates that a registrar has double-checked the accession number and that the work has left with the student. We then give everyone a tote bag, which includes care instructions, hanging hardware, and information about our upcoming programs. We design new tote bags every year. This year's tote featured a new public artwork that we installed on campus by the artist Olafur Eliasson. The process is very similar for alternates, except that first they'll walk around the galleries and pick the work that they want. They'll note the tombstone information and then go to one of our alternate checkout tables where we'll issue them a loan agreement. The Friday at the end of distribution week is what we call last call. This is where any student can come and pick from works that were not claimed earlier. Everything is up for grabs and it's first come, first served. There are typically around 70 works available at the start of the day, and students start lining up around 10, and we open the doors at noon. We let in 10 students at a time. And then we check them out in the same way that we processed alternates in the previous distribution days. Some students will actually come by at the end of the day before last call, to scout out which artworks they want. But our preparators actually rearrange everything in the morning to make better use of space, so nothing is where they think it will be. This is an example of the loan agreements that we use. We have a section for condition reporting at the top, and then we list the object information and then student contacts. We also ask them to provide an alternate means of communication, basically as many ways of getting in contact with them, the better. And then I've separated out our loan conditions into 2 sections, care and preservation, and notifications and legal responsibilities. We specify that students must keep their room locked when not occupied, no hanging art in public areas, and to avoid areas with direct sunlight, increased humidity, or temperature fluctuations. They cannot transfer possession of the artwork to any other person and must notify us within 24 hours in the event of damage, loss, or theft. In May, before graduation, we have a 1.5-week long return period. Our visitor services staff set up tables in our atrium to accept returns, and then we ferry bins back and forth to storage as they come in. When a work comes back, we find our copy of the student's loan agreement and confirm the accession number and the student's identity. We do allow friends and spouses to return the artwork for the borrower. We just note their contact information at the top of the loan agreement. We'll do a returning condition check and note that at the top of the form, and then we'll fill out a receipt at the bottom of the loan agreement and give that to the student. Periodically throughout the return period, we update our lottery site and our database if the work has been returned. Towards the end of the return period, we send out emails to everyone who has not returned yet that the deadline is approaching. We also post about the return period on social media. There are always a few students who have trouble bringing their works back on time. We do end up dedicating a lot of staff resources to tracking them down and scheduling times for them to come in and return the works outside of the official return period. This year, we are instituting a $15 a day late fee until the artwork is returned. Though we would probably only charge that if the student was just not communicating with us at all. Hopefully the threat of the fee will help students get the work back on time. But by the end of it, we always get everything back, and there's only ever a few slipped hinges or minimal frame damage that we note. Overall, students are really grateful for the SLAP program and the chance to live with real art. One student said that having artwork in her space made it feel more like a home and not a dorm. She said having real art is something that a lot of people identify as an adult thing. And being a grad student, it's hard to feel sometimes like you're an adult. So it's really nice to come home and have a space that's decorated and have a piece that's like this is important and impressive. Students also see participating in SLAP as a great way to get to know other students. They talk about it as being a great conversation starter. They take inspiration from the works and often see them as a reprieve from their studies. Like I mentioned earlier, when I first started working at MIT, I was extremely skeptical about lending artwork from our collection to students. But after running this program for a few years now and seeing the impact that it's had on students here and the care that they take with the artworks, I've changed my mind. Don't get me wrong, on distribution days, when I see students walking away with works in their hands or trying to take them on the tee, I have to take a few deep breaths. But the care that students take with the art, the connections we're able to make with students, and the impact we're able to have at MIT really blows me away and makes it all worth it. Thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Thanks, Ariana.
Yeah.
All right, can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
And is it loading?
Yep.
Yeah.
And okay, so I've had the opportunity to work with 2 student loan collections. From 2014 to 2018, I was responsible for the management of the student print rental program. And since July of this past year, I've managed the student loan collection at the Rose Art Museum in Brandeis. So I'm going to start talking a little bit about the student print rental program and my experience relaunching it. And then I'm going to go into my experiences with the student loan collection at Brandeis and the steps I'm taking towards relaunching it in 2019. Okay, so the student print rental program is the beloved part of student life at Harvard since the early 1970s. It gives current Harvard undergraduate and graduate students the opportunity to bring art into their living spaces and make it part of their everyday lives. For the duration of an academic year, Harvard students can enjoy and critically study their chosen print in their dorm room. The close contact fosters an appreciation of art as students learn to care for the works, interpret their meanings, and come to understand the intrinsic power of art. Harvard Art Museum student print rental takes place over the course of 2 days in the Art Study Center. Students may sign up for a chance to rent an original print on the very popular first print rental day via registration link sent out through the student email list. Names are selected at random for the morning and afternoon time slots until space is full. If a student's name is not selected, they have the opportunity to rent on a first-come, first-served basis during the open print rental day. If they miss both days, students attending the late night event can view around 12 selected works and enter into a drawing for a chance to rent one of the remaining prints. Print rental return takes place over the course of 2 days at the end of the spring semester. And we also have a print preview event so that students can view the works before they come in to rent. None of the artwork is available online for the students to see beforehand. All right, the rental days. On the rental day, students visit the Art Study Center on level 4 of the Harvard Art Museum to select a print. They must check in at the reception desk and present their Harvard University ID.
Jessica, I think you have to turn your microphone back on.
Did you hear me at all?
Oh, yes, we did. I think we just missed you for the last 2 slides.
Okay, so this one?
Yes. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. So did you, let's go back. All right, apologies about that. I don't know what happened. Okay, so did you hear me say about generally the program itself, or missed everything?
Let's see. I think maybe you just start from the beginning.
All right, I'll start from the beginning. All right.
Or just the beginning of the slide, I'm sorry. Not
Okay.
the second one. Yep, that
All right,
one.
no worries. All right. So let's put it there. Okay, great. Okay. So, so first I'm going to speak about my experience with the student print rental collection. The student print rental collection is a beloved part of student life in Harvard since the early 1970s. It gives students current Harvard undergraduate students and graduate students. Can you hear me still?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. The opportunity to bring art into their living spaces and make it part of their everyday lives. For the duration of an academic year, Harvard students can enjoy and critically study their chosen print in their dorm room. This close contact fosters an appreciation of art as students learn to care for the works, interpret their meanings, and come to understand the intrinsic power of art. Harvard Art Museum student print rental takes place over the course of 2 days in the Art Study Center. Students may sign up for a chance to rent an original print on the very first popular day of rental via registration link, which is sent out through the student email list. Names are selected at random for the morning or afternoon time slots until space is full. If a student's name is not selected, they then have the opportunity to rent on a first-come, first-served basis during the open rental day. If they miss both days, students attending the student late night can view around 12 selected works and enter into a drawing for a chance to rent one of the remaining prints. Print rental return takes place over the course of 2 days at the end of the spring semester. Before the rental days, they also have a print rental preview so that people can look at the works since they are not available online beforehand. On the rental day, students visit the center on level 4 of the Harvard Art Museums to select a print. They must check in at the reception desk and present their Harvard University ID before they can enter the rooms and browse the prints. Check in with some archives information, the display, and a student browsing the works. When a work is selected, it is brought to a packing station where it is carefully wrapped in distinctive blue student print rental tape. While this is occurring, students fill out the contract and pay a $30 rental fee by cash or check. Students are then escorted out of the museum by staff and are instructed to consult with their dormitory building managers about how best to hang their print. Return days take place at the end of the semester in the museum classroom called the Materials Lab. Prints are checked in and conservation staff members then evaluate the works before they are returned for the summer. Since the 1940s, Harvard University has offered art rental to students as a way to encourage an appreciation of art outside the classroom. The collection originally consisted of reproduction works by artists such as Renoir, Dürer, and Rembrandt. In 1956, the Committee on Visual Arts at Harvard University assessed the collection and made a recommendation to include more original works of art in the program. By 1959, the Fogg Art Museum was lending 50 original prints in addition to over 400 reproductions of paintings, prints, drawings, and sculptures. In 1972, the reproductions were removed from circulation and the print rental program was formally established with a gift from an anonymous donor. The donor specified that the funds be used by the museum to acquire original prints by contemporary American artists. This program continuously operated until the Harvard Art Museums closed for renovation and expansion project in 2008. I joined the Harvard Art Museums in 2014 and organized the relaunch of the program in 2015. Over the course of a year and a half, I gathered all the documentation I could locate, such as collection cards, accession files, curatorial files, and archives records, and updated records in the database. I assessed the entire collection with 2 conservators, noting any condition, issues, and made plans for the treatment and framing upgrades. I also worked with curatorial to update values, information, and transition a few works to the permanent collection. I then researched the previous policies and procedures of the program, as well as those of other art lending programs for students, such as Williams and MIT. And I worked with colleagues to develop our own. I also asked for advice from campus colleagues about hanging the works in student dormitories and set long-term goal of improving records. Since the prints would be outside of the museum environment, we took several measures to protect the prints. In the end, risk is really minimal since the students, like everyone said, really care for the artwork, and they form an incredible connection with the prints. We also, so like everyone else, we frame with plexiglass, use sturdy frames, map the works, use photo corners more often, but some of the works are hinged and include essential information such as labels, provide the students with emergency procedures, and make sure that this is only an on-campus rental, so in Harvard-managed properties. We also created essential forms. And due to the limited number and size due to the limited number of prints and the size of the university and new technologies available to us, my colleagues and I had decided to use social media, email, and the website as our primary means to advertise the program. So we used Google Forms. We also used TMS, that was the database at Harvard, barcodes, MailChimp, social media. Here's a Facebook. They do Facebook posts and Instagram posts. And this is an Instagram post. And this is an index. This is Eloise to the right, is from an index article that we tried to do an annual index article to sort of promote the program and talk about what's going on with it. And then you can see at the bottom the distinctive blue tape. Our contracts were also blue, so it's very identifiable as the student print rental program. So the response has been phenomenal. Students love it, artists want to contribute to it, and the media went crazy for it. We tried surveys the first few years and made some changes according to what students were looking for from the program, such as adding the print preview day. We also determined, we went from 3 rental days to 2 rental days, and found that it really worked for us, as well as with the registration projects, doing a mix of sort of a lottery system and the open rental. So, and my favorite part of it was honestly the notes to the next renter. We had a note cards that the students would give. They'd write when they're returning the print, and they'd write a note to the next renter, telling a story or just giving advice or just writing something witty. But it was great. Some students invited other students to coffee, so it was just a lovely experience, and it really, showed me how important this was to the students, and made it all worth it. So, as the student print rental collection continues to grow in popularity amongst the students, it also expanded in size, and 6 new prints were recently added. So now that program was in great shape, I felt like it was time for me to move on, and I now have the opportunity to work with the Rose Art Museum Student Loan Collection. Brandeis University's Student Loan Collection consists of approximately 650 works of art. That includes artists such as Robert Rauschenberg, Jasper Johns. The program began with the Charna Cowan Student Loan Collection that was established in the fall of 1956, and then was expanded in December of 1971 with the Robert W. Schiff Student Loan Collection, made possible by a donation from Mr. and Mrs. Herbert Lee in memory of Mrs. Lee's father. The aim of the program was to make art available to students in their dormitory rooms so that the appreciation of art becomes part of everyday experience rather than just a separate classroom situation. The program was suspended in the spring of 2009 after the university announced its plans to close the museum. In 2011, the Student Committee for the Rose Art Museum, also known as SCRAM, helped reactivate the program and select approximately 30 pieces to loan. In previous years, works for the Student Loan Collection were displayed at the Shapiro Student Center Art Gallery, because that's the one you see on the left, and curated by curatorial interns. In the most recent past, student works have been on display, student loan works have been displayed in the Lee Gallery at the Rose Art Museum, also organized by curatorial interns. During the designated lending day, typically in October or November, art was available at a first-come, first-served basis. In order to borrow, students were required to show their student identification, sign a loan agreement, pay a $5 fee. They were provided with a packet of hanging hardware, installation instructions, care guidelines, and a sheet about the art that included artist information, which I really liked. It just gave a little bio. Returns took place at the end of the academic year. So I have started the reassessment of the program, reviewing files and previous forms, assessing the collection physically, photographing the works, and updating the database. We're actually currently, as I speak, assessing the program in the gallery right now, taking photographs. Over the next 8 months, I plan to continue with the process to make the program ready for the relaunch in the fall of 2019, following sort of the same procedure I followed at my previous institution, and working really closely with program, and the curatorial interns had such, you know, they curated the exhibitions and they worked to promote the program, that I feel like it's very important to make them a central focus and involve them in the decision-making process, such as Williams did with their program as well. So hopefully we'll relaunch in the fall. All right, so thank you so much for letting me speak and share my experiences about the 2 programs I was involved with.
That was wonderful. Thank you all so much. I am seeing in the chat box that there are a couple questions. The first, I'll read that off really quick. Emily is here from Art to Live With, and it's wonderful to have so many great minds in one digital room. So thank you, Emily. And for Diane, from Emily, you mentioned that the college provides some funding for the program moving forward. Can you expand on how the college financially supports WALS and how much is funded through the college versus privately funded Fulkerson Fund / Fenner Milton, which leads to a larger question for all. What is your operating budget and funding structure? Oh, Diane, I think you have to turn your microphone back on. Yep, there you go.
Thank you for that question. The college has made a commitment to keep our program going. The donor, Fenner Milton, has, you know, I'm not sure if more funds have come in from him, but it was enough to kick out funding in the future. But the college, as we are buying more artwork, will assist us with that. And frankly, I haven't really looked at that budget for quite a while, so I can't really say exactly where we are with it. We are not actively purchasing art every year. We've only had a couple of rounds where we've made some purchases, and it was just a handful of works. It's mostly been gifts from alums. So if she would like to email me offline, I'm happy to try to respond with some more concrete information.
Great. Is there anyone else for that question to talk about budgeting, funding structure?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not necessarily involved in the budget process, so I can't give actual numbers, but I know that there are several donors who kind of give, you know, specifically for the SLAP program, either through just funds for us to purchase works, or they, you know, give gifts of artwork. But it's also just worked into our annual budget. It's like so much a part of what we do here at the list that it's that they just kind of, we get the money from MIT because it's really so much a part of what we do.
Great. So the next question is from Marilyn. She says, hello, I'm working with a college beginning an object library. The objects will be loaned out to classes and for students to do curatorial projects. Wondering what unique stipulations you include in gift agreements when acquiring new works for the student loan collection.
So we just acquire student loan works in the same way that we would acquire other works. We are a little bit more free to acquire works for the student loan collection because they're typically lower value works. So we don't need to go to our board of directors or anything like that for purchases or gifts or to approve things like that. So normally it's kind of within our director's purview. And then we just make sure that the donor knows that it's for the student loan collection. We have in writing that they understand what the program is and that they understand that their work is going to be part of this program. And most of the time that's why they're donating it to us, is to be part of this program. We don't have anything in our specific gift agreements. It's basically just as long as we have in writing somewhere that the donor understands.
I'll add to that. Yeah, I think it's important to talk to the donor about it. And sometimes donors want to be more involved, especially with academic institutions. They like where students can actually be really involved with it. So when I was at Harvard, when we were acquiring some works, the curator made sure to sort of tell the artist, well, we have an active program that students get to enjoy your artwork in their dorms, and they were like, this is wonderful, how can I give to it, this would be great opportunity. So if you have a donor that's really excited about curatorial work, or an artist, I'm sure that they would be thrilled to have their work be a part of that collection. But just I would just add that in your case, since it's going to be objects, just kind of talk about how it's going to be handled by non-museum staff. Maybe just make sure you add that in there.
This is Diane. I just wanted to add that we have a separate acquisitions committee for the WALLS program, and it's student-driven, but staff members are on that committee, and as well as donors. And the students vote whether to accept works into the WALLS program or not. And actually, we have had some gifts that were donated by college alums, and the works weren't accepted into the program. So, the director just wrote a note to them and just, described the process, and that not everything that's offered is accepted. And people actually have been very nice about it. And but most of the time, most things are accepted. But we work hard to get the word out to our alums that the program, what it is and what the goals are and what kind of works we're hoping to get to mirror works that come into our collection and things that our student body is interested in. So as you all have said, it's a matter of giving the correct information and making sure that the donors understand what the program is and that it is for the student loan program.
I have a quick follow-up question for all of you. It seems like all of your models of this program really depends on student involvement. As you were just saying, Diane, with the students making decisions about which art pieces get accessioned into this collection. Would you be able to just talk about how you get those students involved in the process?
Well, for us, the student interaction part is driven by our engagement team, and we have people on staff that focus on getting our Williams students involved with the museum, and we have a group of students that they lead tours, and they're directly involved in other projects here, and engagement works with that team of students to kind of lead it, and then the students go out to their friends, and it sort of moves out through the students, and it seems to be pretty successful. We're in a transition right now at the museum where we've had some staff change, so we're kind of reinstituting as we add more new staff to fill the positions. I'm sure the new staff will look at the student group, but I can't imagine that we would stop having that student group because they're so integral in what we do here. And actually, it's been great because we form really strong relationships, especially with that student group, and then it kind of fans out from there.
That's great.
Yeah, so I believe that we always also have a student who's kind of a student representative on our board. So they're kind of always like, and irrespective of the SLAP program, they're kind of, we always try to have a student voice in kind of everything that we do here. And then we also have like a really active student guide program that that my colleague Emily runs, and kind of really getting students really more active in the presentation itself of SLAP and in giving that, or in talking to other students about SLAP, if I can say that. And she definitely does a ton of outreach with student groups and things like that on campus before and during SLAP.
Okay. Interesting.
And we have a student committee for the Rose Art Museum, SCRAM. We also have student guides, and we have student guards in the gallery.
Oh.
And then we have curatorial interns, and we have a collections intern coming on. So a lot of student involvement. And I think they're really essential. I mean, they were so helpful when I was trying to launch a program at Harvard, trying to figure out, like, when's the best date for return? Like, do you feel like, classes are too crazy at this time? Like, what's shopping week like? Like, when are people coming back to campus? And because we can kind of look at the calendar, but they can really tell you, like, the feeling for the campus at that time. And I worked with the academic public programs there, and we have academic and public programs manager here at the Rose as well. So she's super helpful and enthusiastic and engaged, and just sort of, finding those students who are really enthusiastic about the Rose and, getting them involved. So
Great. Do you find that a lot of the students wanting to get involved in the loan programs, either wanting to have a piece of artwork in their room or kind of have a more hands-on experience with the program, do you find that a lot of them are studying art or art history or interested in museums, or is it kind of a mix?
I found that it's been a mix. I just talked to a student the other day that was really excited, and he was in the business school, and he's like, my economics background, like, I can really help with figuring out, like, about trends in art and things. Like, it's interesting. There's so many different backgrounds that students can bring to the art world. Like, they don't necessarily have to have an art background. I didn't have an art background. I was a history major. So, it really just appeals to so many groups. And I've had, different schools reach out to me and be like, oh, can we get involved with this? Is this something that's only for fine arts students? And we're like, no, it's open to everyone. So it's really exciting, and people are really happy about it.
That's great.
Yeah, we've had a really good
At
mix.
WICMA, and we likewise, we reach out to all the departments, and we make a special push to the sciences, as well as the art division. And yeah, we have students from every facet involved with us, and it's really exciting. And as Jessica says, it's great to get the students from all the different disciplines involved and to see what they bring to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get a really good mix of students from kind of all over the spectrum. And actually on our Art Lending website, there's a great breakdown chart of students by majors.
Yeah.
So you can really kind of see just the wide breadth of students that are interested in the program.
Great. And I had another question. Do you find that all of the pieces in the student loan collection end up being rented by students or taken home by students, or are there some remaining pieces that don't get to go into dorm rooms or on campus?
We typically, everything goes, because our program is pretty modest in the size, 130,
Mm-hmm.
and but we've talked about maybe having some works retired for a bit. Don't want it to get stale, and we want things to maybe move in and move out as time goes on. I think we'd be acquiring more pieces, and because we want it to stay fresh for the current students, we don't want it to you know, we don't want some works to not be relevant to them anymore. So that's something we've talked about going forward. It'll be interesting to see how we end up working with that.
When I was at Harvard, our first few years when we were trying to figure out what worked best with the schedule and everything like that, we had not all the works went out. But finally, we sort of hit our balance last year and figured out like what the students liked and how to get most students in. And at that point, you know, we were completely sold out by like the second day at 2:00. It was awesome. I was really excited. So, and the same thing happened this year. I wasn't there for it, but you know, it's great. Most of the works go. And then at the Rose, it seems like they had about like 25 to 30 works available for the past you know, a few years, and not all of them went. It was like close, probably like 23 or something like that, but a few did not.
So most all of our works go. Last year, it was a little hard. There were about 20 works left over. But that was because we had the worst luck with weather ever, and it rained through a lot of our distribution periods. So there were a lot of times when students just couldn't come and pick up their works. So we tried to like reschedule things. We extended the distribution period a little bit, and most things went, but there were about 20 works that just couldn't get picked up. This year we were much better. There were only about 3 works that just were not chosen. And those, I think, historically have kind of been the same 3 works. So like typically like portraiture and things like that like students don't always necessarily want like that artwork in their dorm. So I think we might try to retire some of those for next year. And we've been slowly trying to kind of cycle through our collection of like the larger works, trying to retire those. We do a campus loan program also, so kind of putting those out onto campus and try to focus those into kind of more student spaces, so they're still kind of part of the student life. And then we also rust works a lot. We have a lot of photography, so we'll kind of cycle through those. So there's typically 2 or 3 bins of works that are resting kind of every year.
Oh, okay.
I think your video might have gone out too.
It totally did.
So for the leftover pieces, would those go back off-site to storage?
So it depends. Most of the time, actually, they would stay in our on-site storage. We have limited on-site storage, but if it's just a bin or 2, they'll stay here on site.
Great. I think we have one person typing another question. But I have so many questions. So I'll just keep asking, and maybe that'll spark some more questions with our participants. My next one, while Emily's typing, how do you decide on how long students have pieces of artwork in their dorms? Some are the full academic year, and some are just a semester. So maybe you can all talk about how you came upon that decision.
Well, this is Diane again. At WICMA semester, just to give more students a chance, since we only have, you know, when we started it, we had like 100 works. So it just seemed fair to keep it going every semester. And we kind of have it down to a system now, so it's not a huge hardship for the staff. You know, we do it, the handout day is 1 day, it's half a day for a few hours, so it works pretty well for us. If we had 600 works, I don't know if we'd be able to do it every semester with our small staff, but I doubt it would grow to that proportion anytime soon. So we can handle what we do now, and we just want to give everybody a chance. Mm-hmm.
For me, it was this was the sort of model that the university was doing. So I kind of just was following what had been previously done, and I think it worked out well with our staff and staff time, and and also, I kind of like the idea of avoiding Massachusetts winter weather if possible.
Yeah, for us, it had just always been kind of the full year. It used to be that graduate students could actually keep them longer, keep them all the way until August. But this year, we'd run into kind of problems with graduation and really kind of tracking down students. We really wanted to kind of shift everything and have students all return in May. So we're doing that this year.
And I think a very popular question, if I remember at the conference when you presented this originally, there were a lot of questions about, if anything had gone wrong, prints falling off the wall. Have there been any incidents with any of the pieces in your programs?
Oh, this is Diane. Up until this year, the only issues we had was, slipped hinges, or I think a couple of pieces must have fallen off the walls and the frames got damaged. This semester, there was a leak in a dorm room and a print got water damaged. But we, are taking care of that, and it's certainly not a complete loss. We do insure the collection. The college buys a separate insurance policy, and each piece has an assigned value. But, we haven't had to make a claim, so we've had good luck.
Yeah, so for us, we've had amazing luck also. It's mainly just been kind of slipped hinges. That's kind of the conservation concern. We've never had to file an insurance claim on anything. And I think nothing is of such a value that MIT would want to file a claim on something. It has to be really high for MIT to want to do that. And yeah, we had one work kind of fall off the wall once, but it was frame damage, and we were able to replace the frame, so it wasn't the work wasn't damaged at all.
Same here. I think that the slipped hinges and broken frames are the most common, but I feel like that's why we put so many measures in place to protect the work. With we put 2 layers of blueboard on the back and taped it up, and have the plexi, and don't use glass, and use sturdy frames, and providing at Harvard we also had the works with the wire, so nobody had to mess with anything. It was just ready to go and very safe. So yeah, those were the primary issues I've dealt with in the past, and it seems to be similar with the student loan collection. The works were a little bit not as assessed, not assessed as frequently at the Rose Art Museum. So I don't know if you saw my last slide, there was a big condition issue where the work actually, from exposure, it actually imprinted onto the back of the backing board. And there was some tape that had been used in the past to hold the piece down. So I think for the most part with us, it was just previous methods of that we have to kind of update and change. So that's what I think I'm primarily dealing with now, versus the students it's amazing, the care. I thought for sure that students would just be whatever, just art, who I'll just put it on my wall. If it falls down, I'm not going to bother. But, I've had students call me up 2 weeks after they got the print being oh my God, I don't know what to do. I have it wrapped. I need to return it. And I was it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Just I'm going to walk you through how to properly hang it. And, let's do this. It's really safe. It's very secure. They just care for the program so much, and then they don't return it until the last day because they don't want to part with it because they love it so much. And I've had students bring their prints back with like jackets over it to protect it from rain, if it's like drizzling or anything like that. We don't do the return when it's like pouring rain, but yeah, just the care and love have really, I think, held these collections, you know, to make sure that they're safe and you know, there's not that many issues with it overall. I found it across the board with my capstone, that my questionnaire, that most institutions felt the same way, that there's been minimal damage, nothing intentional, everything, you know, any issues have been accidental.
That's good to know. We have a question from Emily. She says, with increased press and awareness of art to live with comes an increasing number of requests for other campus loans. So how do you handle requests of artworks from faculty and staff for their office spaces?
We only lend to the president of the college right now. We had recalled everything that was in other campus buildings and departments just because we don't have the staff to manage a program like that. And it just made sense to us to bring everything back. You know, faculty and staff are constantly asking if they can have a loan program for their offices, but we're not in a position to do that right now. So that's kind of been tabled.
That's great. Sorry, go ahead.
So we actually do have a campus loan program that my colleague Lisa runs. And basically, so we don't have a permanent collection gallery space at all. We just have temporary gallery space here at MIT. So really, the whole MIT campus kind of acts as our gallery space, and we have art everywhere. And we have basically have a really active campus loan program, and faculty and staff can make appointments with my colleague to come and view art, and then we'll go and install it in their spaces. And then anytime they need to move something, or a wall needs to be painted, or they move offices, they call us, and then we go and move it for them. But it's a super popular program here. It was on hiatus before I was hired for a while. And there was like a 100-person waiting list, I think, when I first started, of like people who wanted art. It's a very popular program.
It's crazy.
But it definitely does take a lot of staff time, and we hired another registrar here, basically just to manage that program. So it's a big, definitely a big program here.
That's actually Emily's question is a good reminder for me, because we only have 2 registrars here at the Rose, and we don't have a active campus loan program, but there is art on campus. So I need to think about that as as we move forward. Whereas at Harvard, we had a registrar as well that dealt with campus loans, so I could always refer them to that registrar and just kind of start them in the process of being considered for a loan. But yeah, so I mean, at least with the student loan program, you know, we could talk about how this is a student, because I did have faculty and staff interested in the student loans versus the campus, because they're like, wow, it's only $30, and you know, I can. And I was like, wait, this is the intention of the program is for students. This is, you know, it was in the name, student print rental. We have student loan collection. Like, this is a student only program. So I guess that's how I'm going to approach it, talking about how, you know, this is what we have available for the students right now. Please enjoy the art currently on campus. And thank you for your interest. And we can, you know, there's a ton of artists on campus in our active art spaces, so I'm sure they can always connect with them to get their own art for their office if they'd like. And they can keep it forever instead of just having it for a loan period. So maybe that's something to think about.
Yeah.
So we just have a few minutes left. So does any one of our participants have any questions? Any lingering questions? We'll give a few minutes for anyone to either turn on their microphone or type in another question. I think you all might have answered everyone's question. But if, oh, actually, I spoke too soon. Someone is typing right now. Yeah, this has been very helpful. I think it was great to see the comparison of your different programs and to see one presentation after the other. And I'm sure everyone has a couple ideas in case they are either working with a current program like this or considering. So I appreciate all of your wisdom and advice. I don't know if our last question is getting typed out or not, but if anyone needs resources or want to contact you, would it be okay to post your emails on the RAAMP website?
Certainly.
Definitely.
Great. So I just want to say thank you again to all of you. I really appreciate your time, and it was wonderful to hear about your different loan programs. And this video will be available on RAAMP if anyone wants to watch it again or catch it since they weren't able to see it today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.